Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
All right, let me share my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen now. So if I go through what we already discussed in first and second week, we first started with what is UI and UX, and we discussed about UX job roles and the industry. What are the career path that you can take starting off as a designer? And then we discussed about some essential UI and UX technical skills and how we can improve on them, and then how to think like a UX designer. I added few resources to Google Classroom as well, and there's a book called Design of Everyday Things. You should download that PDF and read it. If you don't have, actually, you don't have to buy the book. So there are free versions of it. I added a link already. And what is UX portfolio and how to build one? So we discussed about how to build a portfolio using platforms such as Dribble and Behance. And also if you have any coding knowledge or if you have any prior website hosting knowledge, you can build your own website to showcase your portfolio and your projects. So portfolio is really important if you are a designer. The first thing the recruiters or hiring managers will ask when they hire for a creative job or a design job is to send your portfolio. So at least if you have about 2 or 3 projects in your portfolio with the process that you followed, we call it a case study. So it is really important for you to get a job or get a interview with with a company. And then in the second session, we started off discussing UX process. So UX process is also really important. I mentioned that it is not a linear process, it is an iterative process. So we discuss what is UX process and methods used, how to apply the UX design process practically to any of the projects you get, creative projects, and what is empathy and why is it so important in design thinking, user interviews and competitor analysis, and finally creating personas and creating user flows. All these steps, all these parts are really important if you want to do a good successful UX project. So we start off with empathize, and then we define and ideate, prototype and test. So hope everyone went through these slides and get an idea about what is the UX process and how we can do the UX process in our next projects. So after that, we came to third week. We started this one as well. So in here, we discussed color psychology and color theory. Today, we have to discuss about typography, style guide, UX laws, and creating wireframes. So do you have any questions regarding last 2 weeks sessions? If you have anything, you can ask now. So we can start off with typography today. All right. So what is typography? Typography is a design discipline that involves the use of typefaces and the organization of those typefaces are create readable, usable, and ideally user-friendly interfaces or experiences. Typeface, also known as a font family, the word typeface comes from physical print and it refers to the faces of physical letter blocks. The typeface is composed of fonts. So typography, in addition to colors and selection of colors and visual representation of any element in your design, typography is also really important to give your users some design aesthetic. So we can communicate different ideas by selecting different typefaces. So for an example, if you're designing an application for a corporate customer, you have to select certain typefaces, some typefaces that look professional. if you're doing the same thing, same application or some other application for kids, you have to select some playful fonts to get their attention and so on. So typography is really important. So for an let's say when Windows and Macintosh launching their first operating system, Windows doesn't have that much of a good typography, right? And comparing to Macintosh, from the first launch, they had good typography. That is one of the main selling points of Apple when they launching uh, Macintosh computer. Actually, if you listen to Steve Jobs' speeches, especially the Stanford speech he given, he mentioned that how he learned about typography during the lectures and how he applied his knowledge in first Macintosh computer and so on. It is a really good story, and it is a number one selling point of Macintosh computer during those days. And if you familiar with, these are some widely used fonts that you're familiar with. So I got this from Interaction Design Foundation. So most of the designs are using one of these fonts. So if we go to Google Fonts, you can clearly see now we have different type of fonts. So for an example, we have serif, slab serif, and sans serif. And also they classify them as display fonts, handwritten fonts, monospace, like this, and not text also there. No. So serif is this kind of a font which are readable, and most of the news agencies and newspaper and media where there are so many text content are using serif. Slab serif is also something like this. You can use this for headings and so on. But sans serif is the most used fonts in the web industry, and especially UI and UX. So you can use one of these fonts to show up like when you're doing your next design. So for an example, let's say these are fonts by trending. So if I select most popular, you can see the Roboto, Open Sans, and even Poppins, Lato, Inter, and all these mostly readable fonts comes on top. So if I think you are already familiar with Google Fonts, so that is the number one source that we can get fonts and use in our design. So even in Figma, they have implemented Google Fonts freely. So if I want to select a font, you can just type something in something like that, and it will give all the typefaces it has. So it has a thin 100 up to black 900. So this is the like one with less thickness, and this is the most one with most thickness in their design. So even if you use application like Figma, you can clearly see all these Google fonts are there in Figma as well. So if you want to install a font in Figma, the first thing you have to do is download the Figma application. So you can't install a font if you're using it in your browser. You have to download the application and install a font by visiting some of the font providers. Even Google allow you to download the font, but you don't have to because it is already implemented in Figma. But let's say some paid premium font or font from websites like the font, you have to directly download the font and uh, reopen your Figma, so it will display up here the new font you already installed. All right. Okay, font. Fonts are specific weights within a typeface. You choose a typeface, you use a font. If you were to select Georgia as your typeface, then Georgia bold, italic, and regular would be your fonts. So if we go to Google Fonts again and select Inter as our typeface, these are different fonts it consists of. thin 100 extra light, regular, extra bold, black, and so on. Those are different fonts inside our selected typeface, which is Inter. So character is an individual element, most commonly a single letter, number of punctuation mark. So inside the typeface, we have fonts. Inside the fonts, the single element, we call it a character. It can be a letter or alphanumeric character, such as a letter or a number or a punctuation mark or anything that consists in a typeface. Weight, height, and size. This refers to the thickness, length, and overall size of the typeface. You can experiment with different weights and sizes and use the variations judiciously on your interface and break the monotony on long passages of text or to direct attention to specific elements. So for an example, we have a paragraph here. So if we want to put a heading up here, what we can do is we can put another text element right here, and let's say heading, and we can change the hierarchy, or we can change the font size as well as its weight. So let's call it bold. So you can clearly see that this is the heading, and users attention will go onto that part particularly when they try to read it. And then the paragraph uh, is easily readable with different fonts. So we can actually capitalize or uh, make bold some parts of the text. So it will be uh, highlight in the text. So users can easily read and give their attention to that particular part in the text. Okay, letter spacing or tracking, the distance between the widest point of each character. Tracking specifically refers to the uniform increase or decrease in horizontal space between characters. So if you go to this paragraph again, so if you want to add vertical space between paragraph, what you in Figma, what you can do is you can uh, change this letter spacing. So you can either change it to percentage or pixels value or anything you like. So normally, as a default, it should be 0. An alignment refers to how text is positioned. There are 4 main alignments: left, right, centered, and justified. So if you go to Figma, we have left align, center align, right align, and if you click on more and go here, we have justify as well. All right, any questions so far? Okay, these are some typography principles that as designers we follow. Number one, keep the number of fonts used at a minimum. Using more than 3 different fonts make a website look unstructured and unprofessional. Keep in mind that too many type sizes and styles at once can also wreck any layout. So as a rule of thumb, most of the designers, even if you're doing a web design or a mobile design, it is a good practice to use uh, about maximum 2 to 3 typefaces. So if you are using more than that, that design will be inconsistent because you have to match all the fonts with your design. And also there's a sacrificing the speed as well. So for an example, if your website is loading fonts from your local host, self-hosted fonts, or even Google CDN, Content Delivery Network, and there are some other Adobe services like Typekit as well. So if you need premium fonts in your website, you can use Typekit, but Google is always preferred and it is free as well. So if you're using more than 2, let's say you are using 5 typefaces in your website. So each time this website is loading, Google have to send requests to their server and download the fonts to users browser. So it will affect the speed as well of your website. So it is a good practice to use at minimum fonts. For an example, we can actually use one typeface, and we can, if you really require, you can go up to two. So you can use one typeface for your headings and one typeface for your body text, paragraph text, and so on. So always make sure you use a less number of typefaces and make less number of requests to the server to load fonts. Try to use standard fonts. So font embedding services like Google Web Fonts or Typekit have a lot of interesting fonts that can give you designs something new, fresh and unexpected. So what can go wrong? So if you are designing, so Google and Typekit are really a good place to start your designs with. So let's say if you have some company have custom font, which is self-hosted, and you have to host it in your website as well. So in that case, you have to code and you have to import your fonts to local server. So it will take some time to load the font as well. So always make sure go for Google Fonts, and if you need any premium fonts, go to Typekit as well. So in that way, we can speed up the website as well. Next, we have actually this approach has one serious problem. Interesting fonts can distract users from reading. Users can spend time thinking about the fonts that designers use rather than reading the text. So for an example, if you use this particular font in your website somewhere, uh, the readability is very lacking here. So if you use this kind of a playful font or some font that is distracting users' readability, they will think of the font rather than reading it or following it. So always make sure you use a readable font based on your use case. If it is a text-rich website, for an example, news website or a blog website, you have to make sure that your content is readable. So some of most readable fonts are displayed here. So the Roboto is one of the widely used ones, and uh, Open Sans, and even Hopkins, Lato, Inter, and those are the highly trending and mostly used fonts in these websites with more readability. All right, limit line length. Having the right amount of characters on each line is key to readability of your text. It shouldn't be your design that dictates the width of your text. It should also be a matter of legibility. So let's say in your content, this is your site. So you have text all the way from your left-hand side to right-hand side. So you are using the website space, so the complete x-axis space. So in that case, what you can do is you can add a graphic element somewhere and uh, give the text lesser space. So it will actually improve the readability, because otherwise users have to give their attention from starting from this side up until here to all the way to the right side. So make sure you like limit your width of your text elements as well. So number of characters in each of these lines, there is a recommended limit. So I will discuss it now. Should have around 60 characters per line if you want a good reading experience. Having the right amount of characters on each line is key to the readability of your text. So users can follow the text and give their attention to limited number of text. So as humans, we have a very limited cognitive memory. So when users start reading, if you have very longer text, users won't like remember what they already read. But if you have this kind of a text like limited characters in one line, they can easily follow up, and they can remember what they already read, and they can follow up the remaining part of the paragraph. So actually the limit of the characters are depending on the screen size as well. The mobile screens has different recommended characters, whereas tablets and desktops has different characters. So for an example, let's say this is for a desktop screen. This is too narrow. So if you have up until uh, let's say this is 90 characters, this is 60, and this is 40. If you have something below 40, it is too narrow and you are not using your real estate of your screen as well. This is the ideal range up to something around 40 and 60. So this is, you can see it is very readable when comparing to this. And this is readable, but we are not using our space wisely. This is too wide. So users have to follow up and users have to keep reading from left-hand side to right-hand side of the screen. So always make sure you get into this ideal range when you are using different paragraphs on your designs. So here we discuss about different devices, and for mobile devices, you should go for 30 to 40 characters. So if you are designing for a mobile, you can go to 30 to 40 characters up until here. And below is an example of two sites viewed on a mobile device. The first one uses 50 to 75 characters per line, optimal number of characters per line for print and desktop, while the second one uses the optimal 30 to 40 characters. Actually, the first design is not mobile optimized as well, so users will have to zoom in, zoom out, and read the article. Whereas on right-hand side, the Washington Post, it is very readable. So users can easily read through without an issue because it uses the recommended range of the text per line, characters per line. All right. Choose a typeface that works well in various sizes. Users will access your site from devices with different screen sizes and resolution. Most user interfaces require text elements of various sizes, button, copy, fields, labels, section headers, etc. So actually the 80% of web traffic nowadays is coming from mobile devices. So that is why the designers are doing design like mobile first design. So in mobile first design, what we do is we first create the mobile layout of our design. So let's say for an example, this is the website of Tailwind. So you can see that they have optimized it for mobile as well. So let's close this, and this is the desktop version. And if you want to view the mobile version, or if you are coding and you want to work with uh, responsiveness of your design, what you can do is you can go to inspect elements and you can select different screens from here. So this is how it will look like in iPhone SE, and you can see how your website will perform in different devices. So it is a good practice to optimize your website on mobile devices as well. So it is actually necessary nowadays. So if you're using frameworks such as Tailwind, or even there's another one called Bootstrap, so they will automatically optimize your websites and make it responsive on different devices. You just have to use media queries, and it will adapt uh, based on the screen sizes that users are using. It is important to choose typeface that works well in multiple sizes and weights to maintain readability and usability in every size. So always when you are doing design, you have to send it to your developer. Make sure you do the designs for desktop, tablet size, as well as mobile. So that is necessary. And make sure to maintain readability and usability, and use all the typography recommendations I have given, the number of text characters per line for different devices and so on. All right. So if you go to our Google Classroom, this website, the typescale.com, before you selecting a typography or typeface, you can select one from here. Like for an example, I'm going to select Poppins. You can see what are the different sizes, the hierarchy of text, the paragraph size, and you can select uh, is it RM, PX, or PT, pixels, or the relative to your screen size, and so on. So if paragraph size is this, you can see the what you have to give for your heading 6 is 1.2. Heading 3 should be something around this. Heading 1 is 2.98, whereas small sizes are these. And you can see this in action as well. Let's say for the mobile device, so this is the heading if you select that particular font. And this is the paragraph text. This is the subheadings and so on. So it is easier for you to decide what font that you should use in your designs before you start off your design in Figma. So it is really important tool for you to decide your fonts in your designs. Type scale. Avoid all caps. All caps text, meaning text with all letters are capitalized, is fine in context that don't involve reading, such as acronyms or logos. But when your message involves reading, don't force your users to read all caps text. So make sure if you need your website to be readable for your users, always make sure you use a sentence case or uh, lowercase letters in your website. So if you are using all caps, it will affect the readability of your website. All capital print greatly retards the speed of scanning and reading in comparison with lowercase type. So it is once again using same concept that we used to. So for an example, in the books also, if it is in block capitals, it is really hard for us to read. So it is good for headings or logos or whatever, but for the readable, the paragraphs and everything, it should be either paragraph like sentence case or lowercase letters. So it will improve the readability. Mostly the lowercase letters are very easy to read because we are so used to it during our lifetime in reading a book or anything like that. So if you compare this is really hard to read. So you can't read it automatically. You have to pay your attention to each of these text and try to read it. So when comparing to this is very readable when comparing to all caps version of design. All right. Don't minimize spacing between lines. In typography, we have a special term for spacing between two lines, leading or line height. So in here, this is the line height. So normally it should be auto. So if we give it a 0, it will look like this. And 20, it will increase the readability because it has so much of space, but always make sure as a good practice, uh, make sure to use auto. So if you have a specific requirement to get more line space between your text lines, you can increase this value, but always as a good practice, keep it as auto in Figma. By increasing the leading, you increase the vertical white space between line of text, generally improving readability in exchange of screen real estate. So as I mentioned, so if you increase this size, let's say 30 or something around 20, it is very readable when comparing to the previous setting. But you are sacrificing your screen, uh, like real estate of your screen. You can put some image here because you have very limited space in your screens, especially in mobile devices. So if you are using these fonts line height to 20, you have to sacrifice your space as well. So make sure to use minimum readable setting for your designs to save your white space, because uh, you have to add some space between your design elements, you have to add some space between images and paragraphs. That is how you can improve the readability of your designs. Okay, as a rule, leading should be about 30%, more than the character height for good readability. So if I give it 30% here, let's say 30 without the percentage mark. So this is readable, but we are using so much of space. So make Figma provide a solution for that. So they are automatically generating the optimum value for that if you are giving the value as auto. So as we uh, just show on Figma, this is the good readability. So you're not using much of the white space or the screen real estate, whereas this is too much and this is too tight. So this is very hard to read, and this one is the ideal. Properly using white space between paragraphs has been proven to increase comprehension up to 20%, as pointed out by Dmitry Fadiev. So he is also a UX designer. So the properly using white space between paragraphs. So that means if you have uh, three different paragraphs, and you need to have white space between paragraphs as well. So we can use this white space to increase readability of designs. For an example, if we have paragraphs without white space, something like this, users will find it difficult to read when comparing to one with white space. So they can clearly see this is the first paragraph and so on. So it will lesser their cognitive load as well. So that is why it is very readable and users can easily follow up and understand what is it about. The skill of using white space lies in providing your users with a digestible amount of content, then stripping away extraneous details. So what we do is by using white space or even using maximum number of characters on x-axis, as I mentioned, the 40 to 60 characters, we are giving our users digestible chunks, because the human memory, in a cognitive memory, we can only remember few number of characters or words, uh, around 6 or 7. So if you can do the same thing in your designs, have 6 or 7 uh, words in your x-axis, it will give users much freedom and understand and read your context without an issue. So in here also we have different hierarchies of text: heading, subheading, and paragraph, and they are not using any white space in between. But when comparing to this one, this right-hand side design is very much organized. So it has white space and you can easily read it without an issue. Next one, when considering typography, you have to make sure you have sufficient color contrast. So on the example above, these lines of text do not meet the color contrast ratio recommendations and are difficult to read against their background colors. You can clearly see the background color is white here, and the foreground color is something uh, similar to lighter gray version. And even the dark color down here, it is really hard to read. Uh, Users have to give their attention, and the contrast ratio is really low. And if you use this kind of a font, the foreground and background colors is contrasted, so users can read it really easily. So there are plugins in Figma as well where you can check your contrast ratio between your foreground and background elements, especially text and the backgrounds. So you can implement that in your Figma designs and check the correct ratio. So they will give you recommendations as well. So in here, these lines of text meet the contrast ratio recommendations and are easy to read against their background colors. So you can use this tool to preview your fonts and even this one. And if you're using Google Fonts, you can type site something and view how it will look like. So this is how, uh, so you can really see what it is, what font face that you should choose and how it will display in your website as well. All right, and that is typography and selection of typography. Do you have any questions?
Hi, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
So, as you said, this typescale.com, bootstrap.com, are we using these sites when we are doing practicals?
Not actually. So typescale.com, as I mentioned, it is a tool that you can preview what is the fonts you're selecting, and you can play around and get an idea about how it will look like in your designs. And Bootstrap and Tailwind, actually, if you're going to front-end development, those are the tools that most of the front-end developers use to build a website. So those are not necessary for our practicals as a designer, but having a good understanding about them will give you advantage. So those are not necessary in our assignment or anything, but try to learn front-end code as well. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's discuss about branding guidelines versus style guide. Branding guidelines are clearly defined rules and standards that communicate how your brand should be represented to the world. Branding guidelines help businesses ensure consistency and demonstrate what the company is, what it does, and what it stands for. Think of it like a brand rule book that centralizes the overall look and feel of your brand identity. So most of these companies, established companies, have their branding guideline. So in the branding guideline, they describe how to use their logo, how not to use their logo, what are the color combinations that they can use, what is the typefaces that they recommend to use. So those things, let's say when they start off their brand, let's say for an Apple, they have a branding guideline. So when they start off their brand, they came up with this branding guideline, and even for the advertisers or social media managers, they are sending this branding guideline. So they are following this branding guideline whenever they do design. It can be a print design or a digital design, website design or anything. They have to follow these guidelines regarding their logo, the typefaces, the images they can use, the ratio between the text and the images in the website, how many percentage of images that they should use, and so on. So if we go to the website, some of these companies have dedicated websites to showcase their branding guideline, and of them have PDFs. So let's go to Apple branding guidelines. So they have a logo guideline. So this will describe how to use their logo and how to use their fonts as well. These are some of the logos and variations of their logos that the vendors will use. So they have given clear guidelines how to use their logo and how not to use it as well. So in here we have how many pixels there should be you are using inside a paragraph or a website, and this is the padding it should have between the elements shared in a screen. So if you're as a designer, when a client approach you and ask you to do a logo or something like that, you have to give them a branding guideline as well. So you just have your job is not over if you do the design of the logo and send it to you. It is a good practice to send it with a branding guideline with something like this: how to use their logo, how many pixels, what is the minimum width that you should use in your website, what are the things that you should avoid like this. and what are the color codes and the hex codes that you use in your website, how to use the logo in different places or different applications, and so on. So if you go to some other brand, this is how to use their logo. And these are the colors that they use in their logos, and these are some secondary colors they are using in their branding, and the whole spectrum of the colors. And this is how not to use their logo. And these are the typefaces that they are using and different sizes. This is for heading, the headline, regular text, and condensed text. This is also how not to use Coca-Cola Foundation logo. A style guide is a document that UX designer creates to document a growing and ever-evolving set of design guidelines that arise from design process. So normally, when we do a design, let's say, so this is a design system. Okay, so in here we have a design system. Design system is something similar to a style guide. I will tell you the difference. So as a designer, if you're using Figma, most of the companies always ask us to send a design system as well. In design system, what we do is we follow atomic design principles. So atomic design is something like this. We start with basic elements, which we call atoms, and then we use these basic elements. Basic elements can be the icons and every image. It can be this kind of a graphic, and images we are using, very basic elements that we are using in our designs. Then we have molecules. In molecules, what we do is we use these atoms to create these kind of a cards or navigation bar or something like that. And this is the very basic, and this is the molecules that we are using those atoms to generate different uh, widgets of our design. And finally, in the species, we have our final design, where we use our molecules to do our designs like this. So this is actually for a crypto wallet. So that is the design system that we have to follow. So you have to, in the atoms, you have to create different components. So I mentioned you about component creation already. So I will describe it in more detail in coming weeks as well. So style guide is something similar. So especially in Figma, you can create a design system rather than a style guide, because most of the developers using Figma to get their code. So for an example, if they want to code something like this, let's say they want to code this one, they can switch on the developer mode and they can get the code with the number of padding for this particular element from here, and even for the logo, what is icon, what is the sizes, and what is the SVG code for that. So it will be really easy for them to get all these from one place rather than giving them a document. Style guide is a document that UX designer creates to document ever growing. Okay. Now, when we start building a website or start building a new project, new mobile application, we will have to design different components in our design. So always make sure to document them, and you can document it in Figma like this, or you can create a PDF, or you can create a documentation website to track all these changes that we did start from the beginning. Okay, having a branding guidelines or style guide or a design system is really important in any product. So why is it important for any product? It give the consistency. So for an example, let's say you don't have a styling guide. So every time you design something, you have to open the previous file and do the design. Or let's say you change your job and new designer came to the company and he don't have any previous reference to follow. So he will design something else. He will use the logo in his own way. And especially when we are sending our designs to, when we're working, when we outsource our designs to handle social media or anything like that, if we don't have a social media or branding guideline, the users, the social media company will use your logo in different ways. So it will lack the consistency of your designs as well. So if it is an established brand, if it is a good brand that the designer have to do branding guidelines and everything. So it will improve the consistency of the designs. Defining standards and usage. So as I mentioned, as I showed you in Apple this example, they have added how to use their logo, how not to use their logo, what is the minimum size of the logo, that minimum pixels, and what how much of padding there should be between elements and so on. So we can define standards and how to use the logo as well. Logo or whatever the element, typeface or anything. It will be easier for the front-end developers to write their CSS and HTML by referring to all the important information and data. Find hex codes for colors easily. Reuse UI components, SVG files, and quickly find and extract any other asset that they may require. So as I mentioned, so front-end developer uh, can easily get the code from here. So they can switch on the developer mode and they can grab the code from here, like what is the CSS code, what is the background code and everything. So and if you install a plugin, uh, so for an example, Figma to HTML, Figma to React, it will generate reusable components for those front-end development frameworks as well. Having style guide or a branding guideline will help the UX designer to craft responsive layouts that fit the brand's style. So if you have a branding guideline, you can easily create responsive design layouts for different devices, such as mobile, desktop, and so on. So you can give them, this is the minimum size of the logo on mobile. This is the minimum width of the logo for the different devices as well. The social media managers can consult the document to use the same exact typeface, color palette, and graphic assets to create a consistent social media feed. So you can send this to your social media managers or anyone who is doing print advertising or anything. This is how we should use your logo. These are the things that we should avoid when using different designs in our design system. All right. So any questions so far? Okay, UX laws. These are some UX laws. Actually, I'm describing very limited of the number of UX laws. There are many, and there are UX laws adding to this list daily basis as well. The collection of laws or design standards that designers must take into account when thinking and improving the user experience. So as a UX designer, you have to follow certain amount of rules or laws, UX laws that predefined by fellow UX designers. Uh, and there are some other laws as well. These are the basic laws that you should know. Number one is Hicks law. Hicks law states that users spend more time making a decision based on the number and complexity of choices. So it basically means the more choices you given to your users, more time they will spend to make a decision. So less number of choices is the better. The more choices you present your users with, the longer it will take them to reach a decision. If you have multiple tasks to complete within a limited time, you will take more time making a decision compared to if you have only two tasks to complete. So for an example, let's say we have two different applications. Let's compare PickMe and Uber. So in PickMe itself, in the dashboard or in the main menu, we have so many options. We have options to book a ride, find a restaurant, or order food, or even find a truck. And there are so many services. But in Uber, they only have two different services. It can be book a taxi or uh, Uber Eats. So if you give so many choices, in that example, the Uber performs better. So users know what they want and they can easily select what they uh, want. So they won't spend so much of time reading and try to make decision what exactly they want. And it will really easy for users as well. So for an example, we can uh, reduce the options for time critical tasks. So when we asking for reviews from our users, the more choices you give your user, the longer it takes for them to make a decision. So if you have this kind of a drop down with how are you feeling today, awesome, amazing, great, fine, and so on, we are giving them so many options. But if you have this kind of a design with only limited number of options, users will choose one very easily. So otherwise, they have to define how I am feeling. Is it awesome? What is the difference between awesome and amazing? And am I feeling great? And so many options. And this one is ideal if you want your users to make a decision very quickly. Even here in this menu, we have different options. For an example, we have heading and image and small description with the price as well. And we are giving add to cart button right here. So it is a good user experience. So for an example, let's say you have a menu in your restaurant website and you have to categorize them based on different flavors and so on. So it will be a good practice and users will spend less time making decisions. So if you have so many choices in your menu, even physically in a restaurant, users will take much time to make a decision. So, but if you have very few or categorized menu or something like that, it will take very less time for them to make a decision. This is another option that most of the e-commerce websites follow, Amazon, Flipkart, or anything. They give direct buy now button in the product display page. And even Quora or any other application, they provide you to sign up with Google or continue with Facebook buttons for you to sign up very easily without providing your email address or anything. If you already have Google account or Facebook account, you can easily sign up without filling out their forms or anything like that. And then we have break down complex processes into small steps. So if your website has a checkout process and you need information from them, what you can do is you can step them, uh, like you can put them in steps. So this website has 4 steps. First, we have to edit basic details and enter company as select subscription plan and finally do the payment. So if I can show you an example. So we also use this kind of layout. So it has 3 different steps. The first one, we have to enter location details. This is actually for the lost items. So we have to enter location details and then we have to put item details and we can upload image. And finally, we are asking for the personal details and the payment. So in that way, we can lesser users cognitive load as well as we can give them uh, more better user experience because they only have to focus on location details here. And then after they complete that, they can go to this step and finally to the final step to do the payment. So most of the website that involve so much of form filling, and if we want to get much data about users, you can implement this kind of a step process in your designs. And number three, categorize choices to make them easier to search for and identify. So if you go to websites like Netflix and Spotify, and they categorizing different movies and different music based on the preferences that you put when signing up, and also uh, what they learn from you when following your watching or listening habits. Number four, highlight recommended options. So as you can see in here, we have two buttons. The number one, the no thanks button is not highlighted, but this is the recommended option that that developer wants us to click. So that one is highlighted. Even here, the recommended option, they have highlighted the recommended options and show them on top of the page. All right, that is Hicks law. Now this is Fitts law. Fitts law states that the larger the distance and smaller the size of the target, the longer it will take. According to this law, fast movements and smaller targets results in greater error rates due to speed accuracy trade-off. So in order to avoid that, you can create larger targets, increase surface area of call to action buttons, minimize movements, make some actions harder than others. So call to action buttons are something like this. So you can uh, pay. So this is we are calling them for take an action. So this button and sign up button and contact button. So those are call to action buttons. Those are really important uh, in lead generation in websites. Give me 1 minute. Okay. So number one, create larger targets, which means we have to create bigger buttons, target buttons, and increase the surface area of call to action buttons. So you have to increase the surface area of call to action buttons like this. Minimize movement. So if as soon as users read this content, we have to place our buttons right next to it. So if we place our button something below in the footer or somewhere that users have to scroll or move their mouse, it won't be that good. Make some actions harder than others. For an example, here, uh, let's say you have a Facebook account or Instagram account or some other social media, LinkedIn account. If you want to deactivate your account, you have to follow certain steps. You first have to go to your account and then you have to find account settings and then you have to deactivate. And even when you are deactivating, they will ask questions such as to enter your password or enter whatever the text that they are given in red color. And those are the examples of how they make it harder some actions than others. Sign up is really easy, whereas leaving a platform is somewhat hard when comparing to signing up. The smaller your target area is, the longer it takes the user to perform that action based on the distance size ratio. So in here, this sign up form, we have the buttons, larger target area. The continue button is larger, and even mobile number sign up or Facebook sign up is larger. Even these input elements are larger. So users can easily interact with it and do their task. And even in Figma or any other image or design tool, we have placed commonly used functions together to reduce the cursor movement. So for an example, if we switch off development mode, all these commonly used items are placed in similar place. So users can easily interact. It is not only for Figma, for Photoshop, Illustrator, Adobe XD or anything. They are using similar elements in a one place. So users can interact with them very easily without moving their mouse uh, much. And here we made our call to action button larger. So users can easily distinguish it with other elements and click whatever the button that you developer wants to click. Because at the end of the day, most of these designs, the web development, web design, or the mobile design, what we do is we want to people to sign up, or we want them to become a lead. So lead generation is important. That is why these call to action buttons should be prominent in your design. So users should be able to find it easily and click on it easily and move on with the flow of our design. To prevent frequent accidental shutdowns on their phones, Apple makes users swipe a slider to turn off their phones. So it won't switch off their phone when it is in your pocket or accidental button clicks. And to resign a power off, all users have to do is press the cancel button. So they can come out of it by pressing the cancel button if they don't want to shut down their phone. So even in Android, they are using the same uh, design now. And if you go to some other devices, TVs or smart devices, they are using the similar function. Not the touch function, but you have to it won't do accidental things like it used to. The cancel button's consequence doesn't compare to turning the phone off. So Apple makes it easier to accidentally press it. So fits law for mobile devices. So if you use your mobile device, so as a designer, you have to think of these as well. So when you are designing a layout, this is the natural area. If user is carrying phone with their left hand, this is the natural area. So natural text is the most effective area to put your call to action button. So because they can click it with their thumb without an issue. So this for this part, the light blue part, they have to stretch their hand, and this part is really hard to reach with one hand. And if they are using right hand, opposite to that, this part is the natural part. So you have to place your button here, call to action button here, and some heading here, which doesn't require any clicking or something. Always make sure to put your all call to action, all uh, interactive buttons inside this green color. So if they use both hands to type or something like that, this is the area that you should put your call to action buttons or interactive buttons uh, inside your application for the mobile devices. All right. Now we talked about Hicks law and Fitts law, and this is Jacob's law. Jacob's law states that when users are used to using a product, users build their expectations around one familiar product that appears similar. So for an example, let's say users used to one mobile banking application or some mobile wallet application like PayPal or any other crypto application. So they are when they are downloading a new application, they have some things that they expect. So they learn something by using these applications previously, and they want to apply same knowledge that they already learned in your application. So you always have to make sure you follow these standards. So if you, let's say for an example, we have a e-commerce application. In e-commerce applications, most of the time the search bar is on top. So that is ideal. So that is the standard that they maintained from the beginning. So users are expecting your website to behave the same way, have the search bar on top, and maybe categorize your items based on different categories. So you have to make sure you give your users what they are expecting. If you try out something new, so you don't place your search bar on top, you place it on the bottom, and you don't categorize it based on the standard categorization. And users have to relearn about your website. So most of the time, they will leave your website and try to find a familiar experience that they already interacted with. So make sure to follow your competitors and previous websites and use these standards on websites. So it will ease up users' thinking process, and they don't have to think because they already know what is the flow and what they have to do to find their product and buy it. Number two, because users spend most of their time on other websites, they expect your site to work the same way as other sites they have already visited. So as I mentioned, for instance, think how Amazon, Myntra, and most of the e-commerce sites behave. They follow similar patterns, similar checkout process. Most of the mental models are almost same. This way, users will focus on their task rather than learning new models. So if you go to websites like Amazon or eBay or even Daras.com, they have similar kind of a layout. They have logo up here and the categorization and search bar here and some products, deals up here. So users are expecting your website to behave in the same way. So try to make sure, actually make sure you provide your users with what they already expecting, what they already learned. So they don't want to learn something new uh, when visiting your website. So they can easily follow their pre-learned design patterns and uh, maybe check out your website, check out a product from your website. Both the e-commerce websites using the same size selection option and following the buttons and information on the right side and image on left. So if we compare these two websites, you can clearly see the image of the product on the left-hand side and some other images and all the information, the price information, the sizes and description, delivery options and everything on the right-hand side. So that means that users can interact easily. So when you are visiting a website, we always tend to read from left to right. So left side is where your eye is going. For an example, by visiting their website, you can clearly see this image, and then you can click the buttons on right hand side and select the product that you want to buy. A great example is designing a page with a search bar. Users are accustomed to seeing the search bar near the top of the page, often with a magnifying glass icon. So even here, we have a search bar with a magnifying glass icon. So it is actually universal standard to use your search bar on top because users can interact with it easily and they can find what they are looking for without an issue. So magnifying glass is so represent the same search uh, function. If a designer decides to place the search bar in a completely new place on the page, it can create confusion for the user. If they want to continue using your site, they have to relearn where the search bar is, taking the extra time. So as I mentioned, if you don't place your search bar in a recommended or mostly used place, they have to relearn their thinking process, or they have to relearn the whole process that you have to do in your website. So most of the time, it will confuse your users and they won't come back or they won't visit your website if they have a bad user experience. So Best Buy have a search bar positioned on top, and even if you compare others websites, especially e-commerce websites, they have search bar on top, just like this. Any questions? Okay, Miller's law. Miller's law states that an average person can only keep 7 plus or minus in their working memory. Organizing content in smaller chunks will help users to understand, process, and memorize easily. So, as I mentioned, even for the typography, we have very limited memory. We can only keep a certain number of text or words in our memory, digits or whatever in our memory. So you have to present this with your design in a limited number of chunks. So users can use their working memory, or it won't give them much cognitive load. So they can memorize and do the tasks easily and process easily. Display information in chunks. This way, it is manageable to users to remember what they consumed. So for an example, the left-hand side has so much of visualization. So they don't actually uh, have to follow up each and every visualization to get to know what is happening. So when comparing to right-hand side example, it is only giving two main visualization, the graphs. So you can give them very limited number of visualization and get them used to it and give them a better user experience than one with the so many options. So if you take Android operating system, the toggle keys are limited to 6 in the notification panel, reducing the cognitive load of the user. So if you display all the setting elements on one go, it users have to scan each and every one of these icons. But in here, they only have the mostly used icons, and they can easily drag down their sticker and access other elements as well. So always make sure give them a lesser number, ideally 6 toggle keys or whatever the options in their in your designs. So on sliding the notification panel, users get a view of quick panel setting where toggle keys are placed in rows and columns, making it easier for users to follow. Now in here also breaking checkout process into steps and creating spaces for card numbers. So as I mentioned, the first we are asking for customer info and then shipping info, and finally the payment selection. Even in the payment selection, we have put it just like a physical card where you can refer to your front side of the card and fill in the card number, name of the card and expiry date, and finally flip your card and put the CVV code. All right. So if you have a sign up form like this, let's say you have to ask them for your personal information like name, email address, phone number, and then let's say we are asking for their educational qualifications and so on. So if we place them in a uh, like one layout without categorizing them, without giving them white space, it is a really bad user experience. So if you can categorize them and put them in different groups, it will give better user experience and most of the users will fill the form without an issue. Okay, next we have serial position effect. This law states that we tend to remember the first and the last item in the series. There are two main concepts involved in the serial position effect. Number one, primary effect. The tendency to recall the first item is called the primary effect because we require less processing effort in rehearsing the item. Recency effect. The tendency to recall the last item is called the recency effect because our working memory preserves temporary information. So if I tell you a list of names, for an example, most of you tend to remember the first name and the last name because your attention, when I start telling the list of names, your attention is maximum. And even when I tell the last name, it is where that you give most attention. In between, we are not giving that much of attention. So that is why serial position effect is also uh, effective when you're doing your designs. Highlight key information in the beginning and the end while placing the least important items in the middle of your sequence. So if you are having a checkout page or something like that, and you can place your order details here, and you can put your terms of services or privacy policy or payment terms or whatever, the text right here and call to action button down here. So it will give users much attention. Like for an example, they can remember the first part and they can ignore this part, the terms and condition. Most of the users won't read it and they can directly go to the final one. NFS speedometer is on the right side and the map is on the left side of the display. So this is another example. The users will follow the location that they are in, and then they can follow the speed as well while playing the game. Instagram bottom navigation is on the left side and the profile option is on the right side, and all the least important options are in the middle. So you can easily navigate. So it is again this law I told you about, the screen positions where users can access easily. So for an example, Instagram using this part to post some new item, and this part is also very reachable for users. So all the necessary, all the most required items are on left and right side corners, whereas the other icons are in the middle. Okay. So what we can do to overcome these uh, things mentioned in these laws. Number one, we can maintain task relevant information within the user interface. So for an example, we have these buttons here. So we can, so even in Figma, we have task relevant information. For an example, let's say I select this. So all the task relevant information will show up here. You can categorize it. You can select tiles. You can select multivariants and so on. So all the things show up on top. And even here in this layout, it clearly show what is the page we are in, because they are highlighting it, and all the grid and ruler and everything are there. So you can design your graphic or whatever you are designing very easy with these guidelines and rulers and everything. Number two, limit the amount of recall required. So in this shopping cart, we have filters chosen by the user, and there are sorting options as well. So if they want to remove one filter, they don't have to remove everything. They just can click on this cross icon and it will remove the shoe size or whatever, and they can browse without an issue. Or maybe they can select different filter based on their requirement. Number three, emphasize key information in the beginning and the end. So if I take this example, in Apple website, they have emphasized key information in the beginning. So they just put the whatever the name and small slogan, and then in the end they are asking you to buy the product. So in between they are telling the story about their product, what are the features and everything. But most important things are introduce you to their product and finally uh, sell it to you. So those are the things that they put on top and in the end. Okay, next we have Zeigarnik effect. This happens with all of us. When we have some important task to do and when we forget to do it, we tend to feel bad about it. This is the Zeigarnik effect. It states that we remember uncompleted and uninterrupted tasks more than the completed task. So most of the applications, especially LinkedIn, are using this effect to make users fill their profile, make users to complete their profile. So if you don't fill your profile, if you don't put your educational experience or working experience in your profile, they will show the progress bar. Your profile is 80% completed. Your profile is this percent completed, and you have to complete your profile whenever you are signing up. So most of the users want to complete their profile when they prompt this kind of an interface. So this is LinkedIn profiles. Strength meter shows one step remaining for expert profile. So this user will tend to complete this profile every time they're signing up. Step tracker showing remaining steps. So if you use an exercise application or uh, tracking application, they will show the number of steps that you have taken. You can set goals. You have to take 2000 steps a day, and it will show that you haven't completed the number of steps that you put on, and even a number of calories you burned. You haven't burned enough calories today. So users tend to do these actions to fill and complete these tasks that they prompt in front of them when using these applications. Okay, next we have von Restorff effect. It is also known as the isolation effect. This effect predicts that when multiple similar objects are present, the one that differs from the rest is most likely to be remembered. So in here, we have highlighted elements like a call to action to stand out from the rest of the design. It is easily noticeable by the user. So you have different uniform elements. For an example, the image, the text, and everything in same color, but call to action button is different. It stands out in the layout. So most of the users will remember and they click this particular action to sign up or fill the form or make the payment or anything. So that is what this effect is about. So those are all the UX laws that we discussed in this course. I will add some more UX laws. I will add some links to our Google Classroom where you can refer and learn some new like trend, new trends and new UX laws that most of the users follow in the industry. So these are minimum. So you have to remember all these when you're doing your design. All right. Any questions so far? You can send your question as a Zoom chat message as well. Okay, we will take 15-minute break, and after that we will discuss about wireframing, and in the end we will discuss do some Figma practicals as well. So I will put our Figma board link here, and please join this Figma board. Okay, we'll see you in 15 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, we talked about UX laws. Now we are going to discuss about wireframing in UI and UX design. So actually a wireframe is generally a monochromic drawing that created in design phase of design thinking process. It provides a blueprint of the page structure, layout information, and functions. This in turn gives a clear idea to the stakeholders about the functioning and visual representation of application UI. So as a designers, you need to understand that wireframing is really important. So you don't have to even the client suggests to you that let's directly go to the designing. Don't do that actually. So if you do your wireframes, even before you do your wireframes, you have to follow the whole UX process. You have to get an understanding and empathize with your users, and you have to do your competitor analysis and everything. And then with all this data, with all these things that you learn from those processes, you apply them in your wireframes. So wireframe is actually, it is not colorful. It is just monochromic representation about your design. So it is only showing the hierarchy of design, the visual representation, where your items are, where your search bar is, where should you place your text, where should you place your images. So that hierarchy or that representation, we show it in the wireframe, the page structure, layout and information, and basic functions in your design. It is actually like a blueprint, what you can follow as a designer when you are fine-tuning your wireframes and when you are getting feedback to your wireframes from stakeholders, such as end users or co-designers, co-developers, team members, or the client you are dealing with. So that gives a clear idea about what your design and how it is functioning, and you can get feedback from your stakeholders. Why do UI and UX designers use wireframes? Number one, it saves time. So if you like, for an example, let's say you don't do your wireframes and you directly move to low fidelity prototype or high fidelity prototype of your design. So when you do this design, you have to send it to your client or users to get their feedback. So if they give feedback, if they don't like the design, they will tell you. So in that case, you have to again do your high fidelity design, which consumes so much of time and effort and money and everything from your client. So in that case, you must do your wireframes. Let's say you first do your wireframes and send it to your client and users and get their feedback. And it will take some time in the beginning, but at the end of the day, when comparing the whole process, it will save time and effort and money. So always do your wireframes first before you start off your designs. Number two, helps gathering feedback. So you can do UX design functional testing using wireframes. So it don't have to be very detailed wireframe or computer generated wireframes, even pen and paper wireframes. You can add some sticky notes to call to action buttons and test it with your users. It is very cheap, and also it won't like you don't have to do much changes, even if they are mentioning some issues with your user flow or some issues with your wireframe. You just have to do a new wireframe, or you can maybe erase the previous wireframe and do the changes accordingly. And number three is creating accurate design. So now when you have the wireframe and you have to get feedback back and forth and fine tune your wireframe, and when you have an accurate or complete wireframe, you can use this as a blueprint to do your other high fidelity design. You can even present it to your co-designers who are responsible for do the certain designs or certain functions of your design, but everyone in the team can use this as a blueprint to move forward with their designs. Okay, we have different wireframe types, three of them actually. Number one is low fidelity wireframes. Then we have mid fidelity, somewhat improved low fidelity wireframes. And finally, we have presentable, which we call high fidelity wireframes. So number one, low fidelity wireframes. They are also known as paper wireframes, which are created roughly, do not contain detailed grids, scales, or pixels, but functions, content, heading, topics are present in a raw form without an accurate structure. So in low fidelity wireframes, you can start off just by having a pencil and or pen and paper. You can sketch out your wireframes. It don't have to be very detailed. The only thing that you have to consider is should you place your functions, contents, main contents, headings, topics, if it is a text-rich website or a mobile application. It don't have to be in accurate structure. So when we do the visual design, when we do the prototyping or visual design, we can play around with the structure and we can change the hierarchy or whatever. But all these details, all these basic things should be there in your low fidelity wireframes. So this is an example for low fidelity wireframe. This is actually the onboarding process of one application. So you can see that the first one, it is actually a pencil, paper and pencil sketch. So first one is level up, then on fire, and then finally summary, and all the call to action. They can share or they can skip, and they can uh, use this carousel to go back and forth between each of these steps. So this is the process that they follow. First one is level up, then showing badges, then streak, then casual, finish screen, and complete the program. So that is the program flow. So they have designed using pencil and paper. Next, we have mid-fidelity wireframes. These types of wireframes can be commonly used for communication with the stakeholders and end users. Mid-fidelity wireframes contain grid, scale, and pixel. Hence, they are more accurate than low-fidelity wireframes. This makes it one of the most used types of wireframes among UI and UX designers. So, mid-fidelity wireframe is somewhat detailed when comparing to low-fidelity wireframes. So it is mostly used because we can use this design. Actually, we can't present this design to our client or end users to get feedback. But in mid-fidelity wireframe like this, we can present it to our users and get their feedback. So it is somewhat organized and give better visual representation when comparing to this. All right, next we have high fidelity wireframes. Low fidelity and mid fidelity wireframes are devoid of feature images and written content. They make an appearance in high fidelity wireframes. With more concrete shape to UI components, this type of wireframes contains the complete blueprint of the design and is the most accurate and almost similar to visual design screens without much of colors. So let's say you start off with a low fidelity wireframe and you get your feedback from your users for your mid-fidelity wireframe and everything. And now you have fine-tuned your design and you have final version. And you can then do high fidelity wireframe. This looks something like this. It don't have images or anything. It use grayscale, but all the placements or the image placements or the text placements, the headings, call to action buttons, and all the cards and all the information architecture is there. We are representing all the things uh, that lack in our previous low fidelity and high fidelity design, but it gives more consistency and you can present it to your stakeholders, especially the users and as well as the core developers who are doing, or the visual designers who are doing the design based on this wireframe. So everyone can use this as a blueprint to do their designs or do their tasks. These are some wireframing tools you can use. You can use pencil and paper, and this is Figma. You can use Figma, Figma Jam. This is SketchUp, and this is Ballasmith. Or there are other applications such as Pencil as well. So you can use one of these do your wireframes, presentable wireframes. So always start off with the pencil and paper, so it will be easier. So after you have some idea, you can move on to one of these applications. All right. So that is about wireframes. Next, the perfect splash screen. Any questions regarding wireframes?
Hi, sir.
Yeah.
Regarding this high fidelity wireframes, we are not using any colors and the actual logo sizes and the things, right?
Yeah, we are not using that. That part come into play when the visual designer takes this wireframe and do the visual designing. He will decide on the colors, logos, images, and everything. So this is the hierarchy and basic representation about your design and the idea. Clear?
Okay. Yeah, and I have this additional question. This might be not much related to this. As a business analyst, what do you prefer, like a low fidelity or mid fidelity or high fidelity?
So as a business analyst, you have to deal with, you have to get feedback from different users, right? In the top management level and so on. Is it?
Yes, and in my company, like UI UX engineer, also expecting this. What are the actual colors that clients are expecting, and the logo sizes? So, like a lot of things that they are expecting from business analysts as well. So that's why I was a bit confusing.
Yeah, yeah. The first thing you can do is you can just, as I mentioned, you can create a style guide with all the typefaces that you are using and the logo, how to use your logo and so on. And that is the first material that you can use. Then after you create your wireframes, there's another part where you have to do the visual design. I think the visual design, after you do the visual design, you can send them the prototype. So prototype creation, we will discuss it later. So we will fine tune this wireframe and we will add some colors, add images and everything, and it will come to life. So that is where you can send it to your users or your core team members and get their feedback before launching or before sending it to your developers. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And also before we are drawing wireframes or prototype, if we are having the common template or something which you have mentioned before, it's easy, right?
Common template means,
For colors, like
yeah, the
maybe plugins and everything for the things that we need to design.
yeah, yeah. Actually, don't come up with the plugins and the theme first. Just try to learn about the problem you are trying to solve. And then after that, get the requirement from the user and interview few end users and get an idea about your competitors and everything, and then do the wireframes. So in that case, you will get an idea about what are the functions. Let's say we are using PHP or WordPress or some kind of a thing. So when you do the wireframes, you will get an idea. This is the plugin that we can use to represent this part of the screen. This is the plugin that I can use to create contact form and so on. So don't limit yourself to technologies first. Be creative and do your designs, and uh, then finally decide on what are the technology stack, what is the technologies that you are using. Clear?
Yeah, why I asked like that since sometimes with my position, like it's time consuming. That's why I asked like
Yeah,
every
yeah,
time when we are doing A to Z, we can't do the wireframe. So that's why I wanted to know some easy, the basic things. Then we can use those template or the things, then we can come up with a good wireframe, right?
yeah, yeah. So in that case, what you can do is you should have a style guide. So you have a logo and how you can use your logo, what are the things you should avoid, what is the typeface and everything. And then you can change your template based on that requirement.
Yeah,
So
okay.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
most of the time in practical, actually, especially when you are working with clients in Sri Lanka or any other country, we don't have much time to uh, do the whole process. But it is a good practice to do the whole process. Always try to tell them that we have to follow the whole process to make a successful product. So if they don't listen, you have to adapt and do the website quickly somehow, but always make sure that is the normal, that is the ideal way of doing UX.
So style guide, we can customize to our Figma platform, right?
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
can copy these components and do your design.
All
So
right.
logo and so on.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any more questions, anyone? Okay. Now discuss about splash screen, the perfect splash screen. The splash screen was born out of the requirement for apps to spend a few seconds setting up before the user can get moving. Keep it simple with a short, elegant animation to present your app. Always remember the 3-second rule. And if you go over, show a loading indicator. So splash screen is actually really helpful to welcome your users to your application. So for an example, it has a developer or backend advantage as well, where you can load everything that required to load your dashboard or whatever by showing users this splash screen. So as it mentioned, always make sure if your splash screen is showing for more than 3 seconds, show them a loading indicator, because if you don't let your users know what is happening in the background, it will be confusing for them. So always make sure to show a loading bar or a loading percentage or whatever if it is taking so much of time. And always make sure to keep it simple with only a logo with a background color, like you have already seen or when you are using Instagram or Facebook or whatever application. They're just showing a small, like only the logo with elegant animation. And load absolute minimum data from the server, but making sure you have all the info needed to show the next screen immediately. So in that case, when you have lightweighted splash screen, you only have to load the logo itself. So logo can be SVG, scalable vector graphic, which is very lightweight. So you can just show it to your user while you're getting all the things, all the requests that you require to show them the next screen. So that is beneficial for developers and the designers, both of them. Integrate errors into splash screen to avoid ugly pop-ups. So if you go to applications such as Pitby, Uber, or any map-based application, if you try to switch it on, if you try to go to that application without the location uh, switched on, they will show you error message. In order to use this application, you have to switch on your location services. So make sure to give those kind of messages. And also take this opportunity to ensure your users are running an up-to-date version of the app. And if they aren't, direct them to the stores to update. So you can make this opportunity when you are loading the splash screen. You can check, are the users using the latest application, or do we have any new releases? And if they don't have the latest version, you can give them a button to update their version to latest one, and redirect them to particular app store, Apple App Store or Google Play Store. So these are some loading animations for different apps. Uber keep it simple, but with a very nice animation to immerse you into the app experience. For continually changing content, it may be better to load images after the splash screen has completed. So these two are very simple. Shazam integrates their logo into the main interface seamlessly. So in the loading animations, Shazam has this logo. Even Shazam is listening to some music that you want to identify. They are using similar pulse animation with the logo. And these X Confessions application, they are using the X Confessions app shows errors and update requests directly in the splash screen to avoid pop-ups. So they are asking, uh, they're sending message called that your connection is internet connection. You have to check your internet connection, and then if there's an update, they show in the splash screen. So users won't be able to go inside the application without having internet access or the updated application. So let's say without you allow users to go with the local storage and so on. But when the server try to connect to different functions, it will give error. So many errors will pop up to user screen. So it is a good practice to show these things, that check the internet connections, check if they switched on their map services, location service, before you load the complete application and allow them to go to the splash screen. So this is another application, and this is a trivia application. Actually, it is not there anymore. So in this particular application, they have so many video content. So the idea behind this application was to uh, give live trivia. So they have trivia in a certain time of the day, and it is a streaming application where they ask you question and you have to select answers based on the given set of answers. So in that case, the loading screen took much time because they have to load the video and all the question engine and everything. So it is taking much time. So it is a good practice to show them the loading bar and things like that. So these are some top reasons for people to uninstall apps. Number one is not in use. Number two is limited storage, excessive advertising, excessive notification, confusion, technical issues, and other. So not in use application, for an example, let's say you have to scan some documents. So you don't download PDF scanner or something, and you scan your documents one time and you don't use it anymore. You don't require it in your phone, and then you uninstall it. And number two is limited storage. So if you playing some games. So most of these games are not lightweight. So they take at least something around 1 GB or few megabytes of your storage. So if you have limited storage in your mobile, most of the users uninstall that particular application. And excessive advertising. Most of the applications who provide free services, like they depending on this advertising, they will show you different advertisements, different banners and images. Even if you download a game, if you want to do a free version of that game, unless you buy the paid version, they will show you video advertisements to unlock different things. If you want to continuously want to play, you have to watch a video and come back and so on. So those are excessive advertising. Some people will do that, and most of the people don't like that. Excessive notifications. So if your application are sending so many notifications, so many push notifications, which is really distracting for users, users tend to uninstall that particular applications as well. Confusion. So if the application is not doing what they expect the application to do, or if it is not performing well, uh, the people will get confused. So they will deactivate the application as well. And if the application has so many technical issues, it's not connecting with the server, it is not giving the results that users expecting. Uh, so users will deactivate that applications as well. And there are some other issues, other reasons that users will deactivate applications as well. So that is all about wireframing as well as typeface and also color psychology. Uh, we covered so far. So do you have any questions regarding today's session up until now? Okay, these are the things that we covered last week and today: color psychology and color theory, typography, style guide, UX laws, and finally creating wireframes. And also some details about splash screen. Now let's do some UI design Figma practicals. Uh, I'm going to introduce you to Figma first, and then Boolean operations, responsive grid layout, auto layout, components, variants, and finally responsive design. Okay, let's go to Figma and discover what is home screen community and Figma design files and features. So if you go to Figma, this is the home screen you have. So all the teams that you are working with and all the projects that you are working recently will display here, and recents, and if you have any drafts, it will display here, and so on. So these are some of the recent designs I worked with, so that those will display on top. And in here we have design file. We can open a design file. Design file is something like this, and you can do your designs. It is something like this. And if you go back and open Figma Jam, you can use this to create diagrams. So you can use this to create a brainstorm diagrams, sticky notes, Gantt chart, and so on. And you can use templates to start. And it is really important and really useful to do your UX research and present it to your team members, and diagrams and UML diagrams, mind maps, or anything. You can use one of these templates to create personas or anything, and create it without an issue. So you don't have to worry about the graphics or anything. You just have to put your research findings there and present it to your team. All right. Now, next we have Figma community. So if I go here and okay, community button is down here. So if you go to Figma community, it will show you all the designs, some of the designs that users have uploaded to Figma itself. So you can easily grab one. Let's say you are designing application for a banking application. So banking, you can just search banking, and you can select any UI kit that display here. So let's select this one, and it has all these information, and you can open it in Figma, and you can use these elements to do your design. And also there are some other benefits in Figma community as well. They have different plugins, and also you can uh, get some icons that previously created icons, and maybe you can upload your own design to Figma Cloud, and it will display in the community. So you can give other users, you can help other users with your design libraries and toolkits and icon sets or anything if you like. Okay, let's go to Figma design file. So this is the design file in Figma. So in here we have the project theme and then the project name. I mean, it is a free version project. It will display here, and all the file, and so in file we have new design file and save local copy, and we can export our designs different versions, different file types, and so on. So in edit we have these options. In weave we can switch on and off pixel weave, outlines, and viewable options, and zoom in, zoom out options are there. I think if you go through these, you can pretty much understand what is it about. So all the applications, image editing applications, the graphic designing application have similar kind of tools. So in Figma, we can install different plugins as well. So you can click on this icon, and it will show you all the components that you already created. And these are the plugins that I have installed here. And you can install any of these plugins and do the work you like. So you don't have to manually create anything. Most of the plugins will do the job for you. And there are some widgets as well where you can quickly drag and drop this widget and create your UI as you uh, move forward. All right, and in here we have all the team members that are working in the project. So it is a collaborating tool. So where you can invite your team members and work simultaneously with anyone involved in the project. And then you have share icon. You can share this project with anyone and you can publish to community and you can embed it in a website as well by changing these permissions here. And this development tool, it is really important for the developers so they can select one of these elements and they can easily copy the code of that particular uh, part. So this is not a uh, paid file I use for the class, so that is why it is not displaying. All right, now then we have the prototype. So we can create a prototype and present. Let's create a prototype. So if you click on this, it will show all the prototype settings, the buttons, the animations, and everything, which we will create later. So that is the link that you have to send to your users. So if I show you the prototype here, so you can create a user flows like flow number 1, flow number 2, and you can connect these buttons. After splash screen, this is the screen I want to load. After user clicking this particular button, they will navigate to this screen after this one and so on and go back and forth. So if I load that particular presentation and if I click on this, it will animate like this and you can create a animation and you can present it to your end users as well. Like this. Okay. Then we have zoom in and zoom out options and pixel preview and so on. On left hand side, we have all the layers that we have already created. So always make sure to give meaningful names to your layers, even when you start off with your design. So right now, these two are just shapes. So that is why we haven't added anything, but for these, I have added wrapper, image holder, heading, the paragraph, call to action. So always make sure, otherwise you have to rename them afterwards. So it will take so much of time. So rename them on the go as soon as you create one particular element, rename them here. So it should be meaningful. So you are not the only one using this Figma file. There will be developers, there will be co-designers, and they should understand that as well. So make sure to use meaningful names for your elements. And in here we have assets, which are local components we have already created. Last week we created this card and we have a card component, so we can drag and drop it here. And all features of that will display on right hand side. But this is the area that we do the design. We can select whatever the artboard size we want and do our designs according. And on the right hand side, it will display all the properties of selected elements, the font size, the stroke, effects, export settings. We can export as a PNG or whatever the option you prefer, and you can preview it here. And alignments, and also different constraints which will help you to create responsive designs. We will discuss that as well, and typography and all the colors. Okay, that is the basic about Figma layout. So when you use it more and more, if you use it in daily basis, you will get to know about Figma. You have to experiment yourself. So I can take one by one and tell you how to use different tools, but your first-hand experience is really important if you want to be a good designer. So I invite you to go through all these and try to select one of these and see what is happening in your design and do the designs accordingly. So create branch is another new option they have added. So if you into development, like if you're using GitHub or Git, we have like version control there. So let's say you have a main branch, which is the live branch. And if you want to add a new feature, you can select a different branch called feature one and feature two and so on. So let me show you an example. Here we have main branch and we have different branches as well. So each of these tasks we are doing in different branches. So likewise in Figma also we can do the same thing by using this branch. So it don't have to be you don't have to maintain one branch, different users in this team. Let's say for an example, one user is working on one particular screen. One user is working on home screen, another user is working on contact us page. So when you work like that simultaneously, you can create a branch under your name and work and finally merge them together. If there's any conflicts you have to resolve, but you can merge them together without an issue. Okay, go through these and all these tools and explore what it is about, and you will get an idea about Figma layout. Okay, in Figma, we have Boolean operations. We have union, subtract, intersect, and exclude. So if I demonstrate it to
One
you,
question that I'm having.
yeah,
What's the difference between Figma file and the designer file?
Figma file and a designer file. Designer file means
Uh, in the file section, you can see new design file and the new Figma file.
let's see. Okay, new design file is the normal file that we can use to do our design like this. And in FigJam file, it is actually used to create diagrams. It has this kind of a board, and you can use it to create different diagrams and sections, and you can present it to your. It is actually can use to brainstorm in meetings and creating diagrams. But this one, you can create to you can do visual designs by using design normal file.
So if we are creating a wireframe, we can use design file, right?
Wireframe, you can use design file and you can even use this one. This one is more highly recommended, the Figma Jam.
Ah,
In detail design, the visual design, you can do using normal Figma file.
okay,
Figma Jam is something else.
okay. And how to navigate to that community section?
Community section, you can, in your
And
dashboard, there's a button called Explore Community right here.
that is through app, right? Not through web.
Yeah,
Web.
in the
Ah,
web browser, let me see. Actually, it is a good thing if you can download the application.
all right.
So, yeah, let
So
me,
that also free version, right? Application.
yeah, Explore Community is right here. So, in the same place.
Ah, okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
free version. In the free version, you can create up to 3 files, 3 different layout. For an example, 3 pages. Let's see, in same layout. But if you have a paid version like this, you can create any number of files.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Boolean operations. Let's go back to our Figma. Okay, in here I will create 2 different shapes. Say shape number 1, give it this color. We have this shape. All right, we have two different shapes. Now let's apply these two and see. So union selection, it will union the whole two shapes. So it will show up the whole area, and it uses the color of the topmost element, the yellow color. Subtract, it will subtract. So it won't show the circle part, and will show up like this. And intersect, it will show us the intersection of those two elements. Exclude selection, it will exclude the intersection and show the other parts of this particular shapes. So those are the Boolean operations in Figma. Union, subtract, intersect, and exclude. So those will be really beneficial if you try to do a design graphic or a logo in Figma. And also there are some cases we have to create components such as cards and so on. For an example, let's say you have this kind of a card in Figma, and then you have image here and someone's name or something like that. So I will increase the font size. And in that case, if you want to remove this particular area from your card, what you can do is you can go to subtract selection. So it will show up like this. So if you don't have any background, you can use a background image or whatever the background image you already have to display it here. So let's move it right here and you wish see it. So you can use it like that. Next, we have responsive grid layout for desktop, tablet, and mobile. Okay, why grid? We can, by using grid, we can keep space and align design consistently, both horizontally and vertically in all pages. Columns used for horizontal alignment, 12 columns for desktop, 8 for tablet, and 4 for mobile. Container desktop 1120 pt, tablet 620, and mobile 358. Actually, you don't have to worry about this much when using Figma. So if we go to Figma itself and select this artboard button, frame button, and then you can open this desktop. And in desktop, we can use this one for the desktop layout. Let's call it desktop. And again, we can go there and use tablet. I'm going to use this one for the tablet. And we need a mobile file as well. Use Android large. When you do design, always make sure you design for at least these 3 screen sizes. So in mobile first design, we start off with the mobile design and move to do the tablet and finally desktop design, because most of the users using your website, 80% of users nowadays web traffic are coming from mobile devices. So you have to consider about the mobile experience first. So that is why we are doing mobile first design. Okay, now let's create columns and columns for each of these. So in Figma, we have ruler here. You can add guidelines by dragging this and put it here. So you can maintain consistency in your designs. If you need it in x-axis, you can do it like this. Okay, for the desktop, we will need 12 column layout. So layout grid, go select your frame and then go to layout grid. And from here, select columns and give it a size 12, and let's add some cutter is 20, it is okay. And you can give some margin as well. So I will leave it as this for the Figma. And then for the tablet, we will have 8 column layout. So once again, go to layout grid and select columns from here and make it 8, the value. So it will display like this. And for the mobile, we use 4 grid layout. So it will be like this. So when you do your designs, you can maintain consistency. So let's say for an example, the first design you did, you using this. So it will show you the guidelines as well. So it will stop here automatically. And then when you do the next design, make sure you start your text or whatever right from here. So it will be beneficial. Otherwise, your design is not aligned in y-axis. So you can use grid lines to make it happen. All right. Now, then we have auto layout. Makes frames and components to responsive. So let's say I have this layout right here. I'm going to hide the columns for now. And then I'm going to create another frame inside this. So this is the frame. Let's give it 1200 and middle it and change the color so you can weave it easily. All right. So in order to make it a responsive layout, what we can do is we need few more elements inside this. I'm going to name this as wrapper, or let's say card. And inside that card, we have image. So you can actually easily copy an image from Google search or whatever, or even in your local computer, you can copy image and select the frame that you want your image to be placed and click on paste. So I'm going to click paste here, and it will paste inside that particular uh, element. So you can change the image size to fit in the screen, and there are image options here as well. So you can select fit, you can select crop, you can select tile or anything. So I will keep it as, so let's add some border radius as well, 10, and for even for this one image, same border radius 10. Okay. Now I'm going to add some text here. So first we need a heading. And we can paste a paragraph here. Let's copy this text. And then finally, one call to action button. Make sure to put it inside a frame so it will give you responsive options. And I'm going to add background color to it. Let's use this color as the background. The text color should be more readable. So I'm going to make it white and switch on auto layout and then add some horizontal padding, 10 pixels, or let's say 20 pixels. And this one also 30 pixels. This one also gives 60. And increase the font size as well. This is our call to action button now. Some padding border radius to that as well. And we can put some effects like drop shadow to this one. So let's make this white color and our desktop different color. So this is our card, and then add some effects to this one as well. All right, so this is the design we have. So in order to make it responsive, we have to create another frame. So let's say we have image here, heading, frame 5. Let's rename this as button. Description, and then heading. All right, now let's group them together and put it inside the frame. Don't select group selection because it won't give you any responsive option. Always make sure to frame the selection. Let's say that part left, sorry, right. So because it is on the right hand side of our card. This one is image, which is on left side. Now we have our card as well. So in order to make this responsive right now, if I change the size of the card, it won't do anything. It won't do anything at all. So if I want to make it responsive, what I can do is I can go to auto layout. And even for this one, select auto layout and align all these to left hand side, and we can change the gap between each element. I'm going to make it 16. So right now, if I change the text size, like change the text here, it will adapt the font length, the button or whatever, if we use auto layout. So right now in the button, we are using auto layout, as you can see from here. So auto layout. So if we change the button text again, let's say read more, it will adapt the changes accordingly. Even here, we change the screen size. We have to select fill container for this one. Contents, and then right hand side we are going to change the size, so it will adjust the font accordingly, so it will be responsive even if you change the size. So this one right here, it is changed in size, so you can copy this same thing and put it in mobile layout and change the size and so on. So even for the image, if you want to change the size when you are moving this, what we have to do is we have to put these two inside another frame. In auto layout, and then fill container, this one fill container. So if you move it around like this, it will be responsive. So it is really helpful. So you can use your desktop design in other screen sizes as well. So let's say I want to put it here inside this one. So I'm going to change the color of this to this color, and also this to this color. Hide the grid line. Sorry. This. And if you want to resize it to match this one, you can easily do it like this. You have to make sure that uh, your image should show up. Otherwise, you can change it like this as well. So it will adapt based on the screen size. Now let's add this on mobile as well. Same thing. I'm going to replace what I already did. Make it the size of your screen, and we will center it. Even this one center, even this one center. And then you can decide whether you need it as a vertical layout or a horizontal layout or a wrap layout or whatever. So I'm going to select vertical layout, and then it will be like this. You might have to change your button size, because button size we put was much bigger when comparing to other sizes, like this. All right. Now that is the responsive design layout. So how you can do that is you have to first create your layout, and there's option called auto layout here. You have to switch it on, and then they give you options. So you can align based on any of these. If you go inside this, you can see. So you can align center, align in the bottom, align in the center and center based on y-axis and x-axis. Okay, that is how you can create responsive design elements using Figma. So let's explore this as well. There's an option called wrap. So this is how you can create a wrap. Let's call this wrapper. And then inside that, we have different cards. I have this one with the color, this color, and inside, I'm not going to put anything inside. Now we have I'm going to copy a number of elements. So what I can do is in Windows, we can create Control D, or you can duplicate it by using Control plus D. So I'm going to create, call it item. So I have a number of items, but those are at the same place. So that is why these are not displayed. So what I can do is I can put them all inside a frame. Let's call it wrap, and switch on auto layout, and it will give you this kind of layout. So this is all the items I have. So I can give it a gap, let's say 10 pixels or 40. It will be something like this. Now I want to try out this option. So in order to do that, you have to switch that on and then make it the screen size you already have. So right now, Okay, well, it is ideal for image gallery or some cards that you have in place, and you can create a grid layout, wrap layout actually, like this, and you can add some padding and so on. So in constraint, what it do is actually in here, I have added constraint center and center. So it will have it pivot point like this one in the center. So if I add it left, it will go to left. So like this, left top. So it is here. You can put left and right, top and bottom. You can play around and find out what is it about. So it is actually constraint. So constraint part, it is not moving. It will remain the same even if you change the size of that. Even if you use it as a responsive layout, that part won't move. One second. All right. So in this example, I showed you something uh, horizontal scroll like this. Let's go back. Like this. So in Figma, we can create all these interactions and anything. So let's create something like that. So now we have this card right here. So I'm going to use this particular card. This is the card I'm going to use. I'm going to make it a component. So how to make it a component? What we can do is we can go here. Let's say we have two different versions of that card. This is the card light version. This is the dark version. And even for the button, we have two different versions of a few different versions of the button. Place it here. This is the default button. This is mouse over. So I'm going to increase the color of that little bit. This is inactive. For inactive, I'm going to give 50% of this color. So we have three different status of our buttons. So in order to make it a component, what we can do is we have to select all three versions, and then go to create component set and name it as button. And then property one is state. So we have button with three different status. This one is default, this one is hover, this one is inactive. So we can do the same thing here as well. So let's put this like button component inside this first. I'm going to delete that. How you can access your component set is you can go to assets tab here, and then we have our button. It will display number of variants right here. Let's drag it and drop it here, and we can remove the card we designed. So in here we have options. We have default option, we have move option, we have inactive option. So we can play around. We can create different components and reuse them in our entire design. So I'm going to create a dark version now. So let's call it dark, and the background color should be something like this. And the text colors, I'm going to put white color. I'm going to keep the button color as the same. All right. Okay, now let's create a light and dark version of this. So what we can do is we can select those two and again go to create component, set, and click on that. And then let's name this as sticker. We have properties, dark or light. Let's say that um, type dark or light. So you can again access these components by going to Assets tab and place it here. And if you select dark version, it will display the dark version. Okay, now we have the component, the dynamic components where we can change. So right now, let's say we want to change our component color of this. I'm going to make it this color, say this green color. And I can easily change it, and it will change all the accompanying, all the existing buttons in the whole layout. So you can change it in one place and it will change all the other designs, all the other uh, existence, so instances of that particular button. So I'm going to change this one as well. And even here, maybe to this color. So now we have a green color button. Okay, now let's create a scrollable layout like we have right here. In order to do that, we need to have a frame. The first one, I'm going to create a custom size frame so you can easily see what is happening. Okay, now we have this particular sticker here, and then I will paste another one by using Control D, another. We have number of similar items. Okay, now, and then we have to put all these stickers in another frame. So that is how we have to create our scrollable layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these and put it inside the frame. Let's say scroll. Okay. Then I'm going to give it auto layout. So it will display like this. So we need horizontal scrolling. So it is horizontal scrolling. So we can use that. So let's give it some gap. Let's say 30. So it is adding a small gap between each of these elements. All right. Right now, if we go to our prototype, so it won't do anything. It won't scroll, or let's say we can't scroll it. So in order to make it scroll, what we can do is we can select this. So if we switch off clip content here, we can see all the things that we just pasted. So I'm going to put back clip content and then select on this and go to prototype and go to overflow option and click on horizontal. So because we need horizontal scrolling. So if I go here and click on this, it will give me horizontal scrolling. So in order to make it like all the components scrollable, I have to drag it and drop it inside like to the limit of the frame. Otherwise, it won't scroll all the elements like this. So that is how you can create a scrollable element. So even if you, let's say you need to create, change the text or change the fonts of these elements. So change the images actually. So how you can do that is you can select one of these elements. Let's say I'm going to keep this image for the first one. I'm going to change the image for the second one. Go inside the image and select your image from here, or you can double click and select it from here. And let's take another image or this one. we can easily paste it right here. So it will change the image dynamically. You can change all the content and use it as you require. Okay, so that is how you can create a scrollable element. So it is similar for the vertical axis as well. So let's say, okay, let's say you have this kind of layout, this one right here. Okay, I'm going to use this as an example. Right now, if you go to design, it is scrollable. So, but if you want it to be vertically scrollable and you want to access all the stickers, all the boxes or squares, you have to limit it here. Otherwise, it won't scroll all the way through. So here you can have scrollable vertical layout. So anything unclear so far regarding Figma? Let's create frames for all of you. We have frames for Aisha, Rashad, Yumi, Vital. Okay. What I want you to do is you have to try out what we did today. You have to create this kind of a layout with a scrollable thing and create a, okay, let's give you instructions here. Okay, number one, you have to do is I'm going to increase the size of the font. One, create a button component with three different states. Default, work, and disable. Then create a responsive sticker component. Response component with two states, dark and light. Okay. Next, uh, create a horizontal scroll with uh, about 10 stickers in your name and make sure it is scrollable in Proto V. So you have to do this task, and I will check during the week as well. So if you have any questions, you can ask me on WhatsApp group chat. So next week, rolling out components. Okay, we discuss about components, variants, and responsive design. So we covered all these lectures. So what I'm going to do is next week is the fourth week of our program. We are going to cover some Figma, uh, more advanced Figma features, and also I'm going to give you our capstone project. So I will give you instructions and the deliverables and the time frame for everything. So if you have any questions, you can email and do that. So in the fifth week, we are going to discuss about your you have to present your assignment. Uh, so I will give you more instructions when I give you the assignment. So is there any questions you can ask now regarding Figma or anything we learned today, the theory?
Hi, sir.
Yeah.
So you recommended us to download the app, right, instead of using web application?
Yes.
Okay.
So in that way, you can save your files in local computer. You can sometimes, if you don't have a stable connection, you can work with your designs, and also you can install custom fonts or anything. So it will provide so many features, and also it is stable in comparing to web-based application. Clear?
Yeah, and I have already used Figma recently with my Gmail account.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether like it will give permission for me to create new one like which you have mentioned now.
You don't have to create a new one actually. So once you download your application, uh, it
I
will
can
prompt.
access with the link that you have given, no?
Yeah, you can access
Um,
with the link I have given. So I will
so
add it to
okay,
Google Classroom as well. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
okay. So Figma will not take it as a new project, right? The link that you have.
No, it is actually a collaborate project. So you can use the same Gmail account you have.
Okay. And these three steps,
Yeah,
those are the one that you have taught us today, right?
yeah.
Okay, okay,
These are right here.
okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. So any more questions? Aisha?
No, sir, I'm good.
Okay. How about Risla?
Got it, sir.
Okay. How about Sabani? Suleiman, how about you? And Vital, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, okay, cool. So if you, when you do your exercise, if you have any questions, you can ask on WhatsApp group chat, so I will answer. So we'll see you next week at 9 a.m. So have a nice day. Bye bye.
See you.
Thank you, sir.